What's up, boners? The Skull Seeker here. Today we will be looking at a snowy owl skull. So this is another 3D printed resin replica. The jaw is separate from the skull. So here we have the full skull. You can see it's relatively large. This is around 4 inches long. So pretty decently sized skull. Once again, as with the laughing owl, you'll notice it has these humongous eyes. Those are over an inch across, closer to almost 2 inches. So that's kind of crazy how big those orbits are. So you can see the nostrils here, really large. The hooked beak. You can see the lower part of the beak here is actually a sheath. So this is the keratinous sheath that covered it when the bird was alive. So you can see that it actually kind of goes under here, which is the actual like bone, and then all of this little extra chunk, you can see the lines of where it starts and ends. That is the keratinous sheath. In the front it's chipped, so that's interesting. But yeah, the actual bone, you can just barely see it under there. And then the rest is this like raised piece that also makes it duller, is the keratin sheath. So like on the top of the like on the cranium, you will also see that like the beak doesn't close all the way. So when it was alive, it would have had a keratin sheath on the beak on the top too. So then it would match up, and this groove here is where it would fit in. So this actually would have like, it'd be slightly longer. It'd be like a little bit farther forward and a little bit farther down. And that is how the jaw comes together perfectly, is when that keratin sheath is on there. Otherwise, there's going to be a gap like you see now. And so you can see the rest of it lines up really well. Like you can see this jawline is like essentially perfect on here. Then it can open its mouth with that separate jaw, allowing it to, hold on, right there, allowing it to open and close its mouth. You can see the joints. So right here, these, and they fit into these joints here, which you can kind of see that like honestly it looks like it should be spaced farther out and like fit into the grooves, like these little pits there, that like this little piece right here lining up with that. But actually that's not the case. If you do that, its beak will be too far back. So you actually want to line up the back of this with the back of this, and it actually fits really nicely there too. Once it gets into its spot, you can see there it fits together almost perfectly. And so that's the correct placement for the beak, instead of being farther forward. So yeah. Or I guess farther back is what I think. Yeah, farther back. So it needs to be farther forward than when it's in the other position, which would be right about there. So anyway, like with the laughing owl, you will see these, which these are the little funnels for the ear. So essentially, when sound is being made and the owl is picking it up, either like, so they're facing in different directions. Like you can see here that this one kind of funnels downward through here. There's like that deepest part is right here, and then this part's more shallow, so it kind of funnels through here into the skull. And then on this side, it actually is more out straight towards us if it's facing this way, where it funnels down and then straight into that hole. So that's a huge difference, whereas this one is actually curving in more to the side. So essentially what that does is when the owl is hearing a prey item it wants to chase, it basically, these two funnels will funnel the sound into whichever side is closest and whichever angle the prey animal is coming from, which then allows it to detect it. So it's pretty cool, but that's how all owls are. So it's honestly pretty awesome. So then we have kind of the brow here. But once again, you know, so owls are crazy because, you know, a normal bird would sit with its head like this, maybe like that. But with an owl, you have it when it's like, you know, like when it's alive, instead of having a skull straight forward, its skull is like this. So like from the front view, that's why when you see owls or like photos of owls, their beak is pointed straight downwards. So their eyes are essentially right here and they're like looking forward as opposed to that way. So instead of looking this way, they look this way. So it's really weird, but that's how they work. Their head is tilted downwards. And if you see like the baby barn owls, you will notice that also. And you won't have to look at a skeleton to see that because you'll just see the naked ones and you'll see that their feathers, when they're naked without the feathers, they'll look just like that essentially, which is really weird and creepy, but it's kind of cool. So we have this humongous brain case here. Obviously, it's made a lot smaller because of the fact that the eyes are here. So like in a mammal, it would kind of be like even bigger if it was this proportionate to the skull. But because it is a bird with large eyes, its cranium is smaller than it could be in a mammal. But still, you will notice how big this is. So that's a very large brain case right there. And it's a very wide skull too. Like the laughing owl has a much thinner skull. So it's kind of interesting to see how large this one is. I mean, we have the foramen magnum in there also, which is where the vertebrae attach on. But yeah, let me get the laughing owl and compare that for you. So here we have the laughing owl. And once again, it has this little knob, which is really unique and cool. This one does not have the keratin sheath, which is why the beak doesn't close well, like why it doesn't like fit together perfectly, because once again the tip would be farther down and this one would be farther like upwards because of the fatty, like it's, I mean, it's not fatty, but you know what I mean, it's like a chunkier extension of the beak. So anyway, and once again, that's how it died, this big old crater in the back of the skull. So we have the laughing owl and we have the snowy owl. So here you can see a size comparison. They are directly over each other. So the laughing owl skull is about, I want to say 2/3 the length of the snowy owl. So it's quite a bit smaller. And you can see they both have a really large brain case. To make this easier, I'm going to set down the bottom jaws. But they both have a relatively large brain case. So that's a good feature about owls. I mean, they're smart birds. And I mean, most birds are smarter than we think they are. So it's really interesting. But anyway, you can see the similarities here. So they both have that hooked beak. The snowy owl's is a little bit curved downward more, or at least it's more elongated. Once again, both of these would have a keratin sheath over it, making it even longer. And they both have really large eyes. However, the snowy owl has even larger eyes proportionately than the laughing owl. They both have the funnels, like I was talking about, to funnel the noise. However, they're facing in different directions. You can see this one is more pointed upward. And then on this side, they're about the same. But it's an interesting thing. I mean, especially with like the size of these. I mean, the shape is relatively similar, but I mean, like the laughing owl was able to take out like pretty large sized rats. Like these were like the invasive, I forget the species, like Polynesian rat, I think, which has many other names. Snowy owls, of course, you know, they'll eat lemmings and stuff like that. So pretty interesting. And if, you know, both of these have to swallow their prey whole, so they'll vomit it up in an owl pellet. The laughing owl was able to take things like essentially half its weight, which was kind of crazy because once again, they don't rip up their prey, they swallow it whole. So that'd be kind of crazy. But I mean, maybe you've seen the video of the greater black-backed gull swallowing a rabbit whole. That was kind of crazy, but that shows what they'll do. Also, herons. There's a video of a cormorant eating a snakehead, a video of a heron eating a fish that's nearly the same size as it. So I mean, herons, cormorants, and essentially all other birds, they'll swallow things that are much too big for them, but somehow they manage to get it down and digest it. So it's kind of crazy. I mean, that cormorant, essentially that fish was the same size as it, and somehow it fit all the way down into its stomach and partway in the neck. So that'd be kind of crazy while it was waiting for it to digest. But yeah. Anyway, so birds are cool. But yeah, they're very delicate skulls, as you can see. Like, we got this really thin bone on both of them. On the laughing owl, it kind of goes up here. It has this extension, whereas on the snowy owl, it's just thin, really thin. Because you can see these are about the same, like, thickness. Both of these on each bird are about the same thickness, even though the snowy owl is a lot larger. So that's really interesting. But I mean, honestly, a snowy owl potentially could eat one of these guys for breakfast. So, but no, they're really awesome. Owls are really cool animals, and once again, they'd have their heads kind of pointed downwards when they're alive. So yeah, we always think of, like, when we have a skeleton, we're like, we have the skull of an animal, and we just like set it down, so it's like, oh well, that's the way it would face, but in reality, like that. So the world of nature is amazing. But yeah, so that is my 2 owl skulls, and I don't know how soon it will be until I get more or any other birds. The next one I'm doing is an Atlantic wolffish that will be hopefully around 7 inches long, and about equally as tall, a little bit smaller, maybe like 6.5 inches tall. So it's going to be a big wolffish skull, and it's going to be pretty epic. I just have to wait for that to finish printing, remove the supports, and then we'll end up with a cool little resin replica, just like these guys. So yeah. Yeah, pretty cool. But I mean, yeah, as you can see, the snowy owl is a bit wider than the laughing owl, proportionately. Because I mean, it's obviously wider in actual dimensions too. But they're both kind of similarly shaped, with this kind of like cone shape. We got the point here and then kind of rounds out. I think that's a perfect way to describe them from top view. That is totally a cone. So pretty interesting. And like I say, keratin sheath. This one does not have it, so you can see the difference. Hold on, we gotta line that up better. You can see the difference if I can get this. Okay, and then get this one. Yeah, so you can see the difference in the amount of beak that's like open. So like, since this one has the keratin sheath, much more of it is closed, and then when the beak is actually like complete with that keratin sheath on the top too, you will see that it will completely close. This one on the laughing owl is actually open because it's missing both keratin sheaths on the top and the bottom jaw. So that's the thing there. Yeah, there they are. So anyway, well, I guess, yeah, you can, honestly, it's cool. You can prop them up like that. They'll just stay like that. Let me move them to the side so you can kind of see it. But yeah, it's interesting. Even though you would think the top would be heavy enough to sit down, sometimes it will prop itself back up. But it's kind of cool like that. You can see, and I mean, obviously they can they can actually open their mouth that wide, so it's not like it's unreal, but it's pretty cool. But yeah, thanks guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.